Hello and welcome back to Operation Sawubona. My name is Biniam and thank you for again watching and following along. This is the second video in a while since I've posted. Yesterday was my birthday on the 4th of May and I thought that what a great time to start on this new journey that I want to invite you along with me on. And today I promised I was going to get to sharing a bit of my story with an intention. I'm titling this video, Please Don't Subscribe If... But honestly though, this is a really important part in this exchange that I want to have you consider. The exchange being that I am posting content for your viewing, and if you're so interested, I would love to have you join in. But I want you to be following along intentionally. I want you to be considering the ideas that I am proposing with full knowledge of where I'm coming from. Most people who interact with me would, how can I say this? Most people who interact with me are fairly impressed. That's an awkward way of saying this. What I'm trying to say is I make a good first impression. I make a good first impression. I'm articulate for the most part, and I dress well. I have great social skills, and so I seem to have this charisma that compels people to say, this person seems to know what he's talking about. He seems to have a few things lined up really well. And for the most part, at this season of life, I feel I definitely do. I have a strong level of confidence that I know what I'm about. I know what my mission is. I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and I'm very ambitious in the pursuit of it. But as you follow along, I want to learn from some of my past experiences, and I don't want to have any collateral damage. To that end, I want to be upfront about where I'm coming from, where my past has been, and that especially because for some, it may be a deal breaker. There may be some things in my past story that you are not comfortable with, and I want to make space for allowing you to consider with full knowledge what it means if you are compelled to follow along in the contents that I am producing. Now, again, just to recap from yesterday, my main purpose I feel that I want to invest heavily in is talking about and having great conversations around the theme of integrity and what that looks like. What does it look like for us to be living with integrity? And the way I put it, I use three words, with the word integrity being sandwiched between the two, and that is personal integrity reset. For many years, I have had the sad experience of living without integrity, and there has been some massive costs as a result of those choices and decisions that I made along the way. And I'm going to share those with you in this video today. The reason why I share this is not to overshare. It's because I see a transaction happening between you and I. While you're watching my videos, while you're following along, while you're expressing interest by consuming the content I'm creating, I don't want you to be surprised unpleasantly. And so while I am open about wanting to build trust between you and I, while I am open about my desire to influence you through my ideas and the perspectives that I share, while I also I'm very, very keen on connecting with you emotionally. I want to earn the right to be heard with you. I want to win your heart, your affections. I want to engage your mind with some beautiful themes that are going to come down the way. I also want you not to be surprised unpleasantly should you discover that there are things in my past that really are deal breakers for you. Now, I'm titling, like I said, this video, Please Don't Subscribe If, and the way I want to finish that sentence is, if you are uncomfortable with my expressions of my messiness or my humanity. There are some things in my past that I'm not proud of, and I'm going to share those with you. But the reason I'm sharing those with you is so that you can determine that if that's your deal breaker, I want to acknowledge that at the outset. I want you to be aware of why you're not following and joining me in this journey, and I want to wish you well as you go a different direction. I want you to have that choice. If the things that I share, however, are not a big deal for you, and you're like, hey, We're all human and we mess up along the way, and your expressions of messiness are not a deal breaker for me. Then at least you have full access to what you need to make that decision. Because this journey that we're going to go on, let me tell you, it's going to be grand, and there's going to be deepening expressions of intimacy between you and I as you get to know me and as I get to know you. And I think I will know at least something about you, even though I may never talk to you, because you're actually following my content and watching my videos. And that really means the world to me. But I'm super excited. But this is the homework that I want to do at the outset before all of the beautiful stuff begins, just to make sure that you and I are on the same page. So this is what I usually do when I go on dates, for example. When I go on dates, by the second date, I want to have this conversation again, because I want to be upfront. I want to be transparent about what my intentions are and where I've been in the past, so that should there be anything that needs to be addressed, we can do that at the outset. So without further ado, welcome to this special video. I want to even see about pinning this video in my feed so that it is the one that everyone starts off by watching. I'm even going to start the description saying, watch this first, because if you're new to the channel, I want you to be seeing this video first and considering very carefully if you and I can carry on forward together. So now that all that preliminary is out of the way, let me get right to it. This is actually a really exciting part for me, not because I get to share about how I've messed up along the way. You're going to hear some of the tough lessons I've learned through some of the painful choices that I've had. But why I'm excited about it is because this is the very theme of what my show is going to be about. And that's what does integrity on display look like? This might seem to some of you crazy, for others might seem gutsy. You know, for me, it's just my bare minimum of how I want to engage with you on the level of integrity, making sure you have everything you need to know about me. In other words, I just want to be honest about my humanity. So for many years, I was living in this really seemingly happy place where I had the love of the community that I was in. I had their affirmation. I had their encouragement. I had their best wishes. I just connected really well with people. This is like one of my superpowers, is I connect really well with people. I seem to understand them. But unbeknownst to many, was that what my real skill set said at this time in my life was, and I'd say this time in my life, it was probably like from my early teens. Maybe early teens, all the way through to my mid 30s. That's a good long season there. I'd mastered the art of reading people and perceiving what their expectations of me were. And while I considered what their expectations were, I also wanted to be able to fulfill what I thought their expectations of me were. So I saw them, I attempted to understand what I thought they were expecting of me. And then I wanted to nail that. And I got really good at this. I got really good at being able to say, okay, here's what is expected, and so I'm going to give it to them. And this is how I experienced tremendous success for many years. It was because I knew how to please those around me. I knew how to hit the right notes to get their affirmation and to get their kudos. What I didn't realize while I did this, I thought I was just trying to make people around me happy, and that really meant a lot to me. But what I didn't realize was that I was being dishonest, because I was signing up for values and commitments that I didn't really resonate with, but I wanted to please them at any cost. And so I went off schedule from who I am. I didn't even know who I was at that time. And I started doing lots of things. What this did internally for me was, while I knew how to please those around me, from my family to my friends to my coworkers to my employers to like my community to my community of faith even, I knew how to sing the right songs. I knew how to say the right things just so I can get that affirmation. But what that did internally for me was there was a discord, because the things I really wanted to express, the things I wanted to value, I couldn't speak my truth, for fear that I was going to be shut down, for fear that I was going to be written off. And so that drove me into isolation and shame. And these two became some really strong companions for a long season. Part of the ways that this manifested itself, I grew up in a very religious community. I discovered pornography when I was in my just preteens, and discovering it, one, sparked excitement because I'd never seen the female anatomy before, but secondly, it also drove home a really strong feeling of shame. And I wished at that point that there was someone I could talk to about these conflicting experiences internally. My community of faith as a Christian, we were discouraged from indulging and consuming porn and lusting, as they would say, over a woman. And so I couldn't help it. I was just intrigued and drawn. And this became what I did in secret and hiding for many years. And I was so afraid that if anyone ever found out that I was doing this, that I would be a write-off as a human. My self-worth was so based on the acceptance of others, and I didn't want to be written off. And so this was something I did in hiding and secret for a very long time. And you can only imagine over the years, as I kept doing this over and over again, how the feeling of shame and isolation continued to increase and grow. I was interested and I was intrigued, but I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And the more I consumed, the more I felt worthless. Now contrast this to the way that people were just celebrating me, because I knew how to read them and I knew how to give them what I thought they wanted. And I loved pleasing them, but even as they affirmed me and as they loved on me, I could never accept it, because inside my mind I was thinking, if you only knew who I really was, then you would be done with me in a heartbeat. During my teens, I never had a relationship with the girls that I was interested in romantically, because I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the guts to go and ask them out. And that was, again, driven by that lack of self-worth, thinking I'm such a messy person, I'm such a worthless person. And I believe that. I believe that to the core. In my 20s, I thought I should probably start studying about what it means to be in a relationship, just in case, a big if, I ever meet a girl that wants to be in a relationship with me. And so as I started reading some helpful books on what it's like to be in a relationship and how to prepare for it, this theme came up that I fell in love with. And this theme was captured by the word transparency. Transparency, the idea that someone could know all about you and still love you and care for you. That was like mind-blowing for me. And I thought, I hope I get to experience this sense of what being transparent looks like and being accepted as a result. Well, I didn't meet my first girlfriend until I was 28 years old. That's fairly late in life, but that long I held out, and I finally met this girl that I fell in love with, and she also agreed to be in a relationship with me, and 2 years later we got married. One thing I'd promised, though, while I was reading those books in my early 20s, was that I wanted to be transparent with whoever I got married with. And I made a commitment then that I would tell that person my whole story. And so I kept my promise. Before we got married, I took her for a drive one day, and I worked up the courage to tell her my whole story of how I'd lived my life in shame and how I was struggling with porn. Because this was like a tremendous sense of guilt for me and shame. But halfway through my disclosure to her, I freaked out internally, and I only told her half the story. And as I made that decision to only tell her half the story, something internally happened that made me tremendously sad, and that was I felt this big deal of transparency that I was looking forward to experience die and melt away internally. And it really impacted me in a heavy way. And I thought, I don't know if I'll ever experience what it's like to be honest with someone this close in my life. And that made me really sad. But I went ahead with it, and I only told her half the story. And it wasn't until a few months into our marriage that she discovered my consumption of porn. And of course, she was tremendously broken and hurt. She actually thought it was her fault, that she was doing something wrong. And I tried to help her understand, actually, it's a long-standing pain point that I have had to struggle with, and it had nothing to do with her, and I didn't have the courage to do what I needed to do in telling her when I had the chance. So anyway, we got together with some of the friends from our church, the leaders in our church, and one of the things that they proposed is that I start attending a 12-step group for those who struggle with addictions this way. And we were calling it an addiction at this time. And I was a little leery about that idea. I was a little anxious, but I went to this meeting and it blew my mind. I met others who had similar parallel stories to mine. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't this oddball, this weirdo. See, for the longest time, I thought I was the only one who struggled this way, and that's what drove me into my isolation. But just meeting all these other individuals from all walks of life, and as they kind of shared candidly from their own experience how they'd struggled, I found myself in their stories, and for the first time I felt like, holy crap, I think I'll be okay. Like, these people are kind of saying the same thing that I have been experiencing for the longest time. And in this program, there was hope that was held out to me that I could be something different. And that was so mind-blowing. And so I started hanging out with these individuals in this 12-step program, and I committed myself for the next few years to going through the steps. And one of the most beautiful gifts I got as a result of being in this program was I learned by their modeling for me how to talk about my past story without feeling that sense of shame. I'm trying not to get emotional, and I don't apologize for crying, but I'm just trying not to get emotional so I can get through my story. This is one of the most beautiful gifts I'd ever received, that I could reflect on my messiness and not diminish my worth. That was so huge. That was powerful. So I learned how to talk about my story in a way that, like before, I thought if I ever told someone about my past, that I'd be a write-off. I learned from these individuals how to talk about my story and how to find my sense of self-worth within myself first and foremost. And that was such a game changer. It was amazing. So it was a really, really neat season that I was in. But then after a couple of years in this program, and after things were going well with me and my wife, we had some kids along the way, I started having these thoughts that I couldn't turn off. And the thoughts were, I've played this good kid card for such a long time in my life. I've remained celibate through all my teen years and into my 20s to try and, live the ideals of my faith as a Christian. But now I just had this tremendous, intense curiosity that said, I wonder if that commitment that I'd made all those years to try and walk that pathway, the presentation that I was trying to give was, trying to be like the good model of a Christian, if that was worth it, or if I'd missed out on going and exploring sexually. And what I did this next season of my life was even more devastating, but I made this decision and I started cheating on my wife because I was so driven by the curiosity of what I'd missed out on for such a long time, and I wanted to see, was that worth it? So I started actively cheating on my wife to experience what other sexual encounters looked like. And I think part of what made it easy for me to do that was I'd lost that sense of transparency that I'd hoped for about when we got married, and I hadn't really regained that, and I'd sort of deadened myself inside. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was hurting some really sweet people in my life. But I just went through with it. And I did that for a few years. I almost got caught a couple of times. I perpetuated lies upon lies to facilitate this world of exploration that I was having from this world, where I was actually living, and I kind of made it work. I'm telling you this because this is the stuff that people would never guess that I would ever do. And I'm telling you this because I want to shatter that perception that I've given so often. Before, I facilitated that perception without being honest. And I see how it's hurt people in the aftermath. And I don't want to do that again. And that's why I'm telling you this story. It's not fun for me to tell you this story, but this is my past. And I need you to wrestle with this. For many, there are many who believe this next phrase I'm about to say. And I disagree with it, and I'll tell you why. But they say, once a cheater, always a cheater, kind of thing. And I can maybe try and understand why they hold that, and I don't judge them for holding that perspective. But if I were to believe that, then I'd be saying, why try to be anything better? Why try to become a better version of myself if I'm kind of stuck in this mold and I don't have that option to become better and not what I once was. So that's why I don't believe that. At some point, as I was actively cheating on my wife, I came across an experience where all of a sudden transparency came rearing its head loudly. Like it just all of a sudden came full force in my mind. And it came with such force that I couldn't turn it off. And I knew I needed to address it. I was like, I've gone so far from where I once hoped to be. And now that I see what I've lost back in the beginning with this honesty and transparency piece, let's put it this way, I couldn't turn it off and I needed to deal with it. And the only way I knew how to deal with it was by fessing up in a full way to everyone that I had affected, starting off with my wife and my kids, my young kids as well too. So I remember that phone call that I made because she was up visiting her family in her hometown. And I thought maybe I'll have that conversation while she's there with the kids visiting, because this is pretty heavy and this is going to be really destructive. But maybe she can choose if she wants to stay in her community where there's friends and family that can support her through this. So I called her and I told her, this is what's been going on these last few years. I've been cheating on you. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I keep doing this. I feel really messed up and broken about it. And I don't know how to right the ship. But I don't want to keep hurting you. And so I'm not going to be here should you decide to come back home. I'm going to try and create some distance. I'm still going to support you and the kids, but I can't be here because I don't know what's wrong with me. So it took us a couple of weeks to kind of work through that. Talking to my kids just ripped my heart as well. They were really young. They were trying to understand what's going on. This is really huge. And I don't know, they learned really well. They're like, Dad, all you have to do is say sorry to Mom, and that's it. And it was hard to help them understand there are some hurts that take a longer season, a long time to recover from, and that's how I've heard Mom. So that was really brutal. This is all driven because I needed to recalibrate internally. This is part of my walk of integrity, like my personal integrity reset that I committed myself to. I hadn't even formalized this concept in my mind then at that point, but I needed to sort of right the ship internally. I was in such internal conflict that I needed to address this, and this is the best way I knew how. And it was really brutal, and it was so tough. So my next people in my life I needed to talk to were the leaders that I'd worked with. What I haven't told you up to this point was what I was doing for a career, which even accentuates how hypocritical my life was. But I was the pastor of a church, and I was leading a church, and I had really disgraced my role as a leader in this faith community. I disgraced myself as a witness of it. I knew what I was doing, and it was... So talking to the leaders, they were extremely sad. They tried the best they could to try and help me get back on track, but the big thing that I was trying to communicate to them was, I know what the right answer is if I were trying to please you, but I can't go down that pathway, because this is how I found myself in this really big mess, is by knowing how to say yes to people even when it didn't align with me internally, and I don't know what I'm thinking or my values, but I know what I need to do right now, and that's just to tell you the truth. And I can't say what you want me to say and get back on the pathway that you want me to, because I just don't feel I'm aligned there anymore. And that was really tough. And then going to the church again and writing letters and saying, here's why, here's where I've been, and here's how how far how far off I am from who you thought I was. I'm going to stick around for a good year here so you can like reach out and vent or express how hurt you are because I've broken trust with you in a deep way. And I can understand that there are many who still to this day feel a tremendous sense of cynicism and disillusionment because I burned them this way. And I have not forgotten that. I still hold that in a really tangible way in my psyche. I started attending the 12-step group again, but this time it didn't quite align because I wasn't sure if this is my pain point. But as I was attending there, I received tremendous encouragement and support from my friends there. And then they encouraged me to consider another 12-step program called CODA, which is for codependence. And I'm like, I don't think I struggle with that. But I thought I'll still go, and that's when I all of a sudden discovered at that first meeting that this is where I should have been the whole time, that I've been living my life based on other people's expectations instead of my own. I didn't even know who I was, and I did not know what my values were or what my truth was. I didn't have the courage to speak my truth, and as a result, I'd made this tremendous mess of my life and had countless broken hearts and relationships and just a mess. This is a really, really rough couple of years while I attended to the way I'd hurt so many in my life. But I had started with these radical commitments to being honest again at great loss. Like I was expecting to have no connection socially for many years. But as I started this new pathway of committing myself to what transparency with me first and foremost looked like so I could see myself in the mirror without feeling shame. Little bit by little bit, I felt this element of integrity creeping back in as I practiced what it looks like to be radically honest and forthright with my community around me and the people that, I was interacting with. And that's brought me to this point now where I feel a tremendous sense of alignment internally. I've done the best I can to make amends to all those that I've hurt, to acknowledge the things that I've done along the way. There's been tremendous loss. My wife and I are in the midst of a divorce now, years later. She's still, to this day, one of the most incredible people I highly respect and admire. Like, there's nothing but good that I speak. I remember when I was on my Uber live streams, and many of you have only discovered that I was separated. Your perception was that, why would anyone want to separate from me? And I had to rectify that story and say, I'm the antagonist in my story. I'm the one who did wrong. And she's an amazing person. And to this day, I still keep on just reflecting on what an amazing, gracious person she is. So there was tremendous loss there for me of someone as amazing as her. In the course of me recalibrating and getting back to this space, one of the things I came to acknowledge was that I don't really find the script of monogamy for me compelling. And so I learned how to be even honest about that in my new disposition now, in being very forthright and upfront with those that I'm dating, saying, hey, listen, I don't subscribe to this. So if this is an issue, we should probably draw the line here and part ways. And that has ensued in many no's, because that for many people is a deal breaker. But I wanted to be upfront about that too. And I know that's another element that many will feel uncomfortable with. And I want you to know all of this because as I continue to create content on what my personal experience and journey through a personal integrity reset has looked like, I want you to know that this is where I've come from. Some of these elements may be deal breakers for you, and I want to acknowledge that and not offer any judgment, but say, hey, I totally get it and I understand, and I want you to know so that you are not unpleasantly surprised. Because as I keep going forward, I want to continue building integrity with myself and you, whoever chooses to stick around. And for me, that means that you have everything you need to be fully informed, to make a decision on if we are able to row together towards this pursuit of what ongoing integrity looks like. It really matters to me. There are some lessons I never want to learn again, and one of those is I never wanted to hurt others the way I did before. That lesson was enough once, and I don't want to relearn it. And so that's part of my messy story I want to leave with you to wrestle with and consider. Are you and I a good fit to be on this journey together? I'm so excited about what's coming as we go forward. And a huge part of what this looks like for me is ongoing check-ins to see what my honest reflection is at any moment as I respond and answer to questions or consider where I'm at. I make space that I'm ever changing, and I love that part about my humanity. I actually celebrate my messiness now, because that's for me what it means to be human. And I want to share that gift of helping you give yourself permission to experience your humanity, so you're not living where I once used to live, in beating yourself down and diminishing your sense of self-worth. I want to see something different for you, and I want to share what that experience has been for me, and I'll hope to see that is also being reciprocated on your side. Thank you for listening to me through this. This is a really important part as we progress forward. Like I said, I have like high expectations of where we're going to go forward, but this is a really important starting place for me, and I want you to come along, but only when there's that rich sense of, this is my hell yes. And thank you for listening. I'm happy to receive questions. If you want, the email that I have receiving all your inquiries and so on is personalintegrityreset@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from your feedback. Sawubona, I said Operation Sawubona is the movement I'm trying to inculcate as we go forward. Sawubona is a Zulu South African word that means I see you. I think it's a word that you can say to me now as you've experienced this video. You see me a lot more better. You see a lot more of what my intentions are. You see a lot more of where I've been before and where I'm moving towards. So if you appreciated what this video was meant to be, in that piece of being fully transparent with you, would you write in the comments section Sawubona, 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 which literally means Binyam, I see you. And I see you not only physically, but I see who you are as a person and your intentions. That would mean the world to me. Thanks for listening along. I am looking forward to posting the next videos as we embark on this journey of pursuing our personal integrity resets. Thanks for listening in. Love you guys. Bye for now.